everybody. I'm going to take you through a few more weeks of Social Studies Weekly. Today I am going to talk to you about weeks 13, 14, and 15. I'm going to combine all of those together and just work on it at your own pace. But then starting with week 16, Mrs. Powers is going to take over teaching about social studies. And so I'm going to go ahead and get you guys caught up to where she's going to start. So I want you, if you have time, work on week 13. Week 13 is all about our city and our country. And it's great. It's got a lot of interesting things about Oklahoma with our landforms, our majestic mountains, our roaring rivers, our lovely lakes. There's also a really neat article about making the world a kinder place, and they talk about the Oklahoma City National Memorial, which, as you know, is just right down the street from John Rex. And so I encourage you to read about that. One of the big things that they talk about in this week is tourist attractions. And so I would love to know what your favorite places are to visit in Oklahoma. So I'm going to be creating a top 10 to go along with this week, with week 13. And I want you to write and type in about your top 10 favorite places to visit in Oklahoma. I would say that some of our favorite places, we've gone to the Wildlife Refuge, which they talk about that in this week. We've gone to the Great Salt Plains, where we've dug for crystals. We went to Beaver's Bend at Thanksgiving. That was really cool. I'm looking forward to going back there. But I want to find out where you guys have been. So I'm going to add a top 10 for week 13 as well. Week 14 talks about climate, vegetation, and natural resources that you can find in our state. And there's a lot of interesting things in here. They talk about ecoregions and the different types of land that you can find in Oklahoma, because we've got tall grass prairies. We also have some swamps and forest down in the far southeastern part of Oklahoma. We have some things called tablelands. We have mountains here. And so this week's week 14 talks all about Oklahoma's ecoregions. It also talks about what is a climatologist, and it studies different climates. And then, of course, on the back, you've got your crossword puzzle. I noticed that I've got some students doing the crossword puzzle online, and you get to answer some questions about Oklahoma's ecoregions. Finally, week 15 talks about weather and environment and how that impacts the economy in Oklahoma. And if you notice that science this week talks about weather, we're also going to be talking about weather next week in science. So this will correlate with that. But this is really interesting. It talks about the Dust Bowl. And Mrs. Powers is going to really talk more in depth about the Dust Bowl with you next week. But I can remember my grandfather talking about his experience in the Dust Bowl. And what it was is it was a time when it did not rain for a really long time. There was just a horrible drought, and the wind was it was crazy. And so what would happen was these winds would come in and blow up all of this dirt and dust. And I can remember that my grandfather, he told me several stories, but when he was growing up, they were very poor, and it basically had a one-room house. And so he and his siblings would sleep out on the front porch. It was a screened in porch. That was basically their bedroom. And they just slept right down on the wood. They didn't have beds, they had a blanket, but during the Dust Bowl, they would wake up, and because it was a screened in porch, but dust could still blow through the screen, they would wake up and be completely covered in dust. And so they would have to sleep with wet rags over their faces. And this was when he was your age. So imagine not only sleeping out on a front porch for your bedroom, but going to sleep with a wet wash rag over your face so that you didn't have dust just clogging up into your nose and your throat. And I can't even imagine that. He also would talk about how they would have sirens, kind of like how we have tornado sirens, but they would have some type of a siren system or a warning system, where if they were at school, which was just a one-room schoolhouse, if the alarm was sounded, and I don't quite remember what he said the alarm was, but if the alarm sounded, that meant that a big front was coming and a big dust clouds would be coming, and the kids would have to run as fast as they could to get home. And he said that there sometimes he would show up the next day to school, and he said one time one of the kids wasn't there, and there were some people that didn't make it through the Dust Bowl, because when you have that much dust and it gets into your lungs, you can't breathe. And he said that, I remember he said that one time he and his brother were rushing to leave the schoolhouse, and his brother, they got separated in the dust, the big dust storm, and his brother ended up making it home, and he got a little bit lost and turned around and ended back up at the schoolhouse. And so he ended up staying the night in the one-room schoolhouse, and that's where the teacher stayed too, just in case students weren't able to make it home. But wow, that's really intense. I can't even imagine what that would have been like. And it was just really interesting listening to him talk about that. So if you have any family members that are still alive that were a part of the Dust Bowl, definitely ask them about that, or ask your parents if they remember stories about their grandparents or great grandparents in the Dust Bowl. All right, I'm gonna do a screen share and show you again how to kind of go through the social studies weekly. So let's see if Mrs. Hayes can remember how to do this. All right, so I've actually logged on to I've logged on to a student's. So we are doing weeks 13, 14, and 15. You are certainly welcome to do any of the other weeks on here, even the ones that we've already done in class. But we will be on week 13, which is Oklahoma City and Country. Here is the article that is about the Oklahoma City National Memorial. And then here is the lesson about the different areas and landforms in Oklahoma. And don't forget that when you go on these sites, they usually have, some bonus sources. And so you'll be able to look at some different things. The food bank, if you've ever volunteered at the food bank, here is a picture of that. And then week 14 is, again, Oklahoma's climate, vegetation, and natural resources. Here is the article about climatology. And that is someone who studies and measures weather over a long period of time. So there's some cool videos about that. I think I have a helper. Here's Piper. You say hi, Piper?
Hi.
And then week 15, this is talking about weather and the environment impact on Oklahoma's economy. This is the main article about the Dust Bowl. Just take a look at that. Can you imagine? My goodness. Looks like I have another helper. This is Colton. You say hi?
Hi.
And so you'll be able to look at all of these different pictures and watch this video. And let's see. So with the Oklahoma tourism, I'm going to add a top 10, but I'm also going to add a See Think Wonder for this picture. So this is a woman that lived, this was during the time when my grandfather was a child, and this was during the Dust Bowl. And this says, look carefully at the photo inside the frame. Imagine you are there. What do you see, hear, smell, taste, and feel? What thoughts are going through your mind? So I'm going to create a See, Think, Wonder for you based on this picture. And then don't forget to do the crossword puzzle for all of these. And I've noticed that we have several students who are racking up those coins. Wow. I looked this morning, and I think some of the top people, well, I had it written down. Some of the top people in my class are, I think it was Joaquin and Tatum. But I'm gonna have to go look, and maybe we'll do a contest, and we'll see who is the top coin earner in each of our classes. So anyway, go through, do weeks 13, 14, and 15, and then from here on out, for the rest of social studies, you'll see Mrs. Powers doing her videos. And I may also add in some other things onto our Google Classroom for social studies, but she'll be the ones doing most of the videos. So I am going to stop my screen share if I remember how to do it. Do you think that I'll remember? Oh, there it is, stop share. Okay. All right, so we hope that everybody is doing well. We miss you, and and here's my babies. Anyway, the other one is still asleep. Troy is still asleep. So anyway, I can't wait to find out where your favorite places to visit are in Oklahoma. You know what, Piper? What are your favorite places to visit in Oklahoma?
Hawaii.
Hawaii? I don't think Hawaii is in Oklahoma. What are your favorite places to go in Oklahoma?
Chick-fil-A.
There you go, Chick-fil-A. Okay.
McDonald's.
What about like the zoo or the Myriad Gardens, the Science Museum?
Yes.
Colton, what are your favorite places?
Great Salt Lakes.
Oh, the Great Salt Plains?
Yeah.
Remember when we dug for crystals?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I caught a fish.
That one
I
other
dug and I
place.
caught a fish.
You caught a fish?
Yeah.
At the Great Salt Plains? There's no water there.
There was just a little.
No.
Well, I saw a fish.
That was the place where we went and we dug for crystals.
Yeah. I found the fish there.
You did? Like a fossilized fish?
No. But there was this big hole that I was digging in, and they lie in of the water and soil on the ground. And so in the past fishies were there, and
I don't know.
fishy.
Well, that's really cool. I don't remember that, but that's cool. All right, guys. It was great to see you. And I can't wait to see who our leader is going to be on the leaderboard for the coins on Social Studies Weekly. Bye.
Bye.